Look how much bigger your face is on mine.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, a new week.
A new day.
A new dawn. We're still in Florianopolis. It's probably the last week. And after a Sunday of rest and no work, we're getting back into it. Got up again just before 6.
I don't like how quietly, softly you're speaking. Because I'm fucking like this. This is my energy right now.
What's there, Michael?
What's there is the struggle. The how many times I've wrestled with how can I reach someone who has pulled away? How can I reach someone who has given up on themselves? How can I reach someone who is content to throw away the relationship, to settle?
Yes.
And it's in my belly, and it's not anger, but it is. It's an aliveness, you know. It is. It's also it's a wanting to shake the person, you know, wake up to what's possible in connection, in brotherhood, in love, in being alive and being there for each other, fully being there for yourself as well, being an ally, and answering the call. That's what's there.
It's an issue for anyone who wants to be an ally. It's an issue for anyone also in relationships. Some that want to.
And I would say most people thinking it, like they hear that word ally, and
I'm gonna close this music.
They think it means whatever they think it means, but they may not know what we mean by it.
Yes,
right?
But I can see that it's for anyone.
Like could someone say, well, yeah, I'm an ally to people, and I have allies, and
yes, but before you go there, even for people watching, you can think of someone that you love or you loved, and you're with them. You had a relationship and it was great, and the person disappears or stops or retraces and doesn't want to go there anymore, and you feel, fuck, there's something here. I love this person. This was great. Why? I want to save this.
Why do we need to kill off
this
person, this connection,
Yes.
this journey? I want to say a shout out to my buddy Oren, who was here with me in Brazil 4 years ago. We did the honor work. We did it on the road. We did it on an island with his girlfriend. And
That sounded.
I see you, brother. What?
We did it on an island with his girlfriend. The honor work.
Yes, it's great. Those were the days. No, that's not the way I mean it. But look at this. This is what I thought of before we hit the go live button, and that is this. Most relationships have a trajectory like this. Like, it gets really beautiful. Oh, it's so great. And then it starts going south. Maybe you try, and then it's just like, boom, dead. Fuck that motherfucker.
Right.
And you toss their corpse into the backyard. You bury them, you know? They're still there. They're still in your memories. They still live on. And you get to remember how you killed them off. And then you have to make it okay. Right? Here's the inner conflict, right? Here was this person I loved. Here was this person I said I love this person. And I fucking buried them in my backyard and threw fucking dirt on their face while they're still alive. Like I forget them. Fuck them. You know? And to make it okay, I have to excuse it. Here's my rationalization. Well, yeah, they were an asshole. They turned out to be someone, they betrayed me. They blah, blah, blah. Fucking bullshit. This is, I'm just speaking straight. This is my orientation to that. It's like, no. Fucking, they're still alive. Take that motherfucker up. Remember them.
Right.
Honor them.
And you can say that about people doing that, but if you're experiencing it yourself, could you also right now be judging those people and saying they are wrong? And while doing that, are you maybe not looking at like what your role is in that? In other words, what I'm saying is you seem to have a lot of anger towards, and I share it 100%. So I'm exploring this because
Yes.
you could be saying, oh,
It's-
fuck that,
it's-
fuck people that they don't want to, they don't want it, and they give up and they disappear, you know. But
I'll
what
just say
can-
my anger is not like I want to fucking judge you and put you down and fucking you're a piece of shit. No, my anger is like, rise up.
Right.
You know, fucking stand for those people. You know, like it's a call to action. It's not a. I get how you could hear anger, yeah, you could hear judgment in that. How people could hear judgment in that, and okay, yes, there is a judgment in the act of that. Yes, there is like a righteous judgment in the act of that because I'm thinking of those people.
Yes.
Buried there, and I'm thinking also of your heart. You know. Like you're suffering, and you're making it okay.
Yes.
And you're putting it on them, and to me, it's not that an ally doesn't judge. It's not that an ally doesn't toss them into the backyard once in a while. You know, it's that you stand for being the one who doesn't do that, and the one if you do, you fucking go, bring it back to life. You know.
Because I recognize the situation so often when say in the past, or a woman would disappear, or a guy doesn't want to be helped no more. But when I feel that strong sense, like motherfucker.
Can I pause you
No.
there?
What I feel is what I'm coming to terms with is my own sense of powerlessness in that situation. Like, why can I not? Why does it come to the point that I could not shape this the way I see it's glorious?
Yes.
Like with a woman or with a guy who's like disappearing. That's when I speak of anger or frustration or sadness, that's what I look at. Like, this is what's happening. Fuck. I cannot help him. I cannot help her. And that's my frustration.
Yes. And they say they don't want it. And the
Yes.
question is, do you honor the words? Right?
Yes.
Which could just be the narration.
Right.
To make it okay for them to go back to sleep, to their greatness, to their honor, to compromise themselves, their power, their future, their relationships, their life, their everything, right? Or do I honor that you know that they're dying inside and that they want to live at their essence? Forget their words that are coming from the part of them that's forgotten themselves,
Right.
that's forgotten their values, forgotten their people, that's forgotten their honor. You know, or to me, being an ally is being an ally to them, not to their bullshit that they make up to avoid life, love, greatness, beauty.
But there's I understand the paradox, but it's a tricky situation because you just sound like an evangelist who goes to people who never heard of whatever God and wants to convert them, you know.
Yes.
And they don't know it. Of course they know it. Let's convert them anyway.
Yes.
You know. So that's the how do you show up in that space, the most powerful, you know, without the most powerful, that you end up with something that everyone wins.
Yes.
How do you do that? And
It's a struggle. It's different with different people.
yes.
It's whatever, but, you know, I can 100% relate.
Mm.
You know, sometimes just feeling powerless. And it's sad as well.
Mm.
It's like, man, I want to reach through to this person. And they keep pushing away.
Yes.
But a lot of these people who do the push away, they have a belief that no one cares. This is all bullshit. There's really, people don't care. No one loves me. There's nothing to live for. Whatever. And so, if you show up in a way that's contrary to their belief, they're not instantly going to say, oh, Hans really cares about me. They're going to make a hypothesis that, okay, maybe he's trying to sell me something. Or maybe he just wants to feel better, feel like I'm the one that gave up, not him. or he's just saying that, whatever, right? And then they're gonna test it. They're gonna test that hypothesis, and they're gonna look for evidence of it. Yeah, see, he challenged me one time, but then he went away. He doesn't really care. I was right. He doesn't care. Now they can hang on to their bullshit belief, right? So, knowing that, as their ally, what there is for me to do is I don't back off. I don't step down. I don't say that they don't want it. I don't say that it's not possible. I don't judge them and leave them judged. I have to keep coming back to at least remembering them in my heart, and being ready to welcome them and to speak my truth to them, and to, obviously we have to choose our battles, right? We can't all the time be, with everyone.
Well, that obviously you have to choose. That's the whole work, Which battle do you choose, or do you let yourself be chosen, or you go for the worst, Like the samurai say that it's easy to be a samurai to a lord who's good with you,
Yes.
But be of service to one who's bad with you. Then you're gonna really be. That's when the real samurai shows up.
Yes.
Be a dog to that.
I can really relate to that from my last couple years in business.
Yes. So are you being chosen in that, or do you choose? Like, that's the whole inner struggle that I have. Do I have alternative motives? I notice that sometimes when I speak it. Do you notice that too? That's the whole work. I'm looking at the inner conflict that I go through when this all happens. Do I have alternative motives? Am I just feeling powerless? Do I want the power? Do I want to feel the power? Do I really care? Do I choose to continue? Am I invited? All of that, So it's a real inner struggle for me.
Yes. Oren says, keep waking people up, Michael. Yeah, so there would be times over the last couple of years, I had a business partner, and it was a really difficult situation a lot of times. It was perhaps the most difficult, or one of the most difficult, guys to stand for.
Man, I just saw it.
And what was so difficult was he's so deep into wanting to hang on to a belief that that people don't care, that he's not worthy, that whatever, all these things, and I was left with such a coldness, oftentimes, and despair and whatever, and I would find reasons to just tolerate him, or to not be in my power with him, or to not bring the honor work, or to but then when I would finally do it, the suffering would be gone. I would have honor again. I would have vision. I would have my power. And it was what have I been doing for these last several months? Or where I'm I'm buying into whatever his narration is, or whatever, and so it was great training for me. You talk about the most difficult master to serve.
Right.
It's going to really bring it out, because if you're really committed to being an ally, whoo, the most difficult battle is going to bring forth the greatest strength, right, and courage. And
it's like they say, you want to know if you're really Zen? Go and spend a week with your parents. But I just realized that this, the struggle that we go through is the one of which battles do we choose, and it's no different than people in relationships. They did studies with arranged marriages, and not only do these relationships last longer, obviously, but they know that those people are also happier because they have to make it work. They have the freedom of a real commitment, which means The alternative is no longer an option, you know, and we don't have that freedom because we have so many options. And so, for being in a relationship, we're in a relationship and we try to make it work, but we can get out of it, man, woman. But we have it in allyship
or
too.
we can say, I'm not feeling what I did in the beginning.
Yes.
So now it's dead, and so I can go away from it.
There are other options, meaning it's never a real commitment because the alternatives are still options. We can get out of it. We can get something new. We can start, you know, and I'm not saying I'm for arranged marriages or whatever, but we do lose the freedom of not having to think about something else anymore with the way we commit or not commit. And it's the same for the way we show up as allies, you know. We show up for a guy as an ally, but we have the freedom to stop being that. If we wouldn't have that freedom, you know, a lot of more energy would come up. If you and say that business relationship, if you had to make it work and there was no other way, you know, a lot more energy would come, you know, a lot more possibilities would arise than if you have options to get out of it, you know. And that's a freedom we no longer have. And that's what I'm thinking, that's a big part of at least for me, the struggle that I have, you know. Which ones do I choose, you know?
Well, I mean, I hear you say that. Maybe it's the way that you're saying it, but or the way I'm hearing it, but I can imagine people who think that they have no other option in the relationship, and they just have to tolerate something that's miserable, and then they settle, and they just say, "There's, you know, whatever."
Right.
So I could see.
Well, yes.
I'm sure that's not what you mean.
Having to make it work is not a guarantee that you will make it work, but there's a possibility that opens up when you are forced in a certain relationship. There's a possibility there that you don't have if you have the freedom to explore something else. Is what I'm saying. You see what I'm pointing at?
Well, you said forced. I don't know what you mean by forced.
An arranged marriage, people are not, it doesn't even last longer. They are happier because they have to make it work, so they explore it.
Okay, but because it lasts longer, does it mean that, is that what you're saying is working?
No.
Because it lasts longer?
No, they do the studies and they ask, you know.
Are they happier?
Are they happier?
Right.
And they are happier.
And what you mean is percentage-wise? There's more that are happy.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Definitely, there's a shit ton who are like suffering inside of an arranged marriage. They're like,
yes,
my fucking parents made me marry this son of a bitch. Or it could be all kinds of violation going on.
But in the way we do it, a much higher percentage is unhappy. Like
we in the West, right?
Yes,
Without it being raised, right?
Yes. So.
Yes.
To me, that's very interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting also the commitment that we make in marriage. You know, the expectation that we put on a marriage, what we expect, and then it's such a low level compared to what it could be.
The way of relating.
Like I think a lot of guys, they think of marriage as like it is like it's a chain in a way, you know, the old ball and chain. Here we go, I'm closing off all my options, and you know, I'm just gonna be chained. Or they think that way after they get married. But my thought about relationship, rather than there's this relationship that I need to manage, or this is this marriage that I'm in. I'm in this marriage. It's more, my attention is more on who am I in this? Who am I for my people in this? It puts my attention on honor and mastery and courage and these sorts of things, rather than on whether this other person's making me happy. How do I feel in the relationship? How should it be? How do we need to fix it? You know, when I think of, it's in the beginning, me doing the work, the ally work, I'd use the concept of alliance a lot. Like, There was me and my 3 brothers, for example. We're an alliance. And then people would go through an I stand, and they would, think of each other as allies, like we are an alliance. But it's very misleading, because there's really you as the ally. It's almost like that's it.
Mm-hmm.
It's really hard to say that we have an alliance unless the other person really has not just the commitment, but the ability, the skill, the whatever, to be your ally. It's a difficult. I'm trying to think of. Imagine that you have an army of people who, when the enemy comes, they run away, or there's no, I don't know, they're not like in it warriors to the end in the face of death, and versus like, it's almost like mercenaries, people are paid to fight alongside each other in a battle, versus warriors. Like, it's the way of the warrior. The samurai is a great example, because there's a whole ethos around being a samurai, and it doesn't matter what your master does. It doesn't matter what the other samurai do.
Yes.
It doesn't, like, none of that matters. It's about, in the face of it all, who am I? Mm-hmm. And that's where honor is. And that's where you're going to develop great mastery. That's where it's beautiful. That's where their power is. And so for me, that's a great metaphor. That's very similar to what I think of as being an ally.
Yeah, and that's not just harder, but it's also more beautiful and more powerful. Because what I learned with the relationships is that you don't have to sit together and work on it. One of the most powerful things is to show up that way, to show up as an ally, and the other doesn't have to get along or go along with you. There's a high chance you shift that relationship just by the way you show up.
Yep, entirely.
And I've seen that happen in relationships that gone sour for me. Just the way I show up differently or keep showing up can shift that relationship independent of what the other says or wants or does.
It already is different, because the relating is different. The you that you are is not the half-assed you that you could be if you were in judgment or blame or
We let the dogs out.
Let the dogs out. Indeed. The samurai, the dog.
Yes.
Say something about that.
Well, I'm just seeing how I've always had this great affinity with the samurai ethos for the warriorship.
Speak about the dog.
Right. Well, the samurai presents as a dog which is at the service of his master, and the great liberty that comes with being of that service.
We don't usually do this. Why don't we improvise and go inside so we're not so...
Oh, okay.
The dogs are so loud. Come with us. We'll rescue you. That's a bit better.
I got it.
The dogs quiet down.
Man.
Adrian says, I like to believe that a real ally is a person where you find always constructive limits for your ego and extension for your best feature.
With honor, Michael Skye, with honor.
So speak about, let's see. Sean Clark says, and we'll come back to the samurai and the dog. Now the dogs have stopped barking. Maybe in our culture, when marriage became more commercial/secular than a truly deep, soulful, spiritual contract, that is where the problem and unhappiness started. Same thing would apply to all relationships and contracts, of course, including those agreements we have with ourselves. Back to honor again. Although I don't think through most of human history, marriage was a sacred contract. It was more of a business deal.
Yes.
But we're definitely in a place in our time in history when we can recreate. We can create what are our vows? What are we committed to? And we're very much not just going with the society or culture or tradition we've been given.
Right. Well, that's a liberty we do have now. Yes. It comes with a responsibility too, and
why don't you tie in samurai and the dog? Speak to that. I said you'd talk about it.
I don't know how it relates, but
no, but you were talking about the samurai being like a dog.
Yes,
to his master.
They present themselves with the idea of a samurai is a dog, meaning at the service, and it's easy to be a samurai for a good lord, but it's really when your lord is a bad one that your ethos, that your values are tested, and can you still be at the service of that? Can you still honor that? You know, and
so the metaphor is the dog he's loyal to his master through it all, right?
Yes, but what's interesting to me is that there comes great liberty with that. You no longer have to choose, you know?
Right.
You no longer have to say, am I doing
not
the right
saying,
thing?
You're not judging your master.
Yes.
You're not like, he's not being a good master today.
Yes.
Hey, master, why don't you stop doing this?
Yes.
And why don't you be a master like this?
Yes.
And it would make me feel better if you did this.
Yes.
It's like...
So it's great liberty that comes that you don't have to do that. You don't have to choose your battles no more. You don't have to choose if you're going to stay in that relationship or not. You know, you stay in, and you're going to do it.
Well, that's the big choice, right? It's not. I get what you're saying. You're saying that you're not constantly thinking of, am I going to leave? Am I going to quit?
Yeah, there's no option of that.
Right. That's me in relationship.
Yes. But what's great for them is that they are chosen as the samurai. They're not choosing the Lord necessarily, you know. They're chosen by, you know, and there's great liberty in it. Like,
yes.
If the alternative is no longer an option, you know, that gives some peace. That's what interesting to me. And the strength of it, the strength of their samuraiship is in the way they serve. The strength of them, their honor is in the way they serve. And that's incredible to me. It's a powerful idea.
Mm. Well, it's also, perhaps my orientation into being ally is probably pretty much related to Jesus and the path he walks, or that God walks, right? It's like, you're my brother, you're my son, whatever, daughter. And I'm not giving up on you.
Right.
You know? And I'm willing to look beyond your bullshit, your weakness, your sin, your whatever, and you can come back, you know? And I see you not as, let's say, your sins. I don't think in those terms, but...
Yeah, but yes. How powerful do you show up? Because I see your struggle. You know, and you're struggling with the idea, like, should I continue to show up and fuck that motherfucker and I'm there and I gotta go back to. So it's always you seem to have to go back to the choice that you made and keep choosing it. Whereas if you were to know that this is your brother, like, to think it's really your brother, like, yes. Your brother.
Yes.
You wouldn't have these considerations of like, Am I still invited? Am I going there? You would show up different with your real blood brothers than with the others. There's an ease that you have if it is your real brother. There's a freedom that comes with that. Like, you don't worry about it.
Well, I think that's true for me, although it still comes up with brothers.
Yes.
You know, with blood brothers. In fact, the closer we are, I mean, most people have their most difficult conflicts with their
Right.
siblings and immediate family and people who are close to them.
Yes, because they can't get away from them.
Well, I'm not sure that's why, but they're suffering also.
Right.
So the freedom that you talk about, they can't get away from, but most people suffer in their primary relationships.
Right.
You know, so I think it really is coming back to the choice, you know, and it also, like with the samurai, what you have is, I mean, how much do I really know the samurai? I'm speaking like I'm definitely not an authority on the samurai, but you know, when you have a culture that honors this way, and you can step back into this way, that like there's a lot more things than just being
Right.
born samurai, right? There's ritual, there's tradition, there's connection to ancestor, there's a story about who you are, there's
also a big part in Japanese, even Asian culture, where the other is always thought of, like in any interaction situation, the
Yes.
other, you know. We don't have that. We have very much like, how am I here in this space?
yes,
And they include the other in everything they do.
yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, it's much easier there also when I'm there, like in Japan, or it's much easier to move with dignity and grace, and you know, like the other is there, and you won't be betrayed. You can feel it, you know. They won't steal your bike, and so there's a whole like culture of that, which makes it so much easier to be like that as well. Anyway, I don't know where I'm going with this.
That's interesting.
Yes.
Well, speaking of men in relationship with a woman, like a special woman in his life, girlfriend, wife, or you know, whatever, a lot of times that story, that game, that whatever is being played out between the two of them. And imagine that you belong to a class of warriors, to a group of brothers, men, who they're the ones who you talk about your warriorship, how you're relating, who you're being for
Right.
your people. Like that's it. And with her, you're not managing it with her.
Right.
You're not in this two-headed relationship, right? Where you each are struggling to steer it this way, steer it the other way, and who's the boss and whatever. Like you're paying primarily attention to who you're being, your mastery, your honor, and your brothers honor you for the battles that you're fighting in the world. And it's not about, is she honoring me? And hey, you know, you're not bringing a complaint that, hey, she's not being an ally, she's not honoring me, she's not whatever. Like fuck all that. It's about, you know, honor, brotherhood, mastery, and most men are missing this aspect. You know, that's something that was in the Mormon church, was women had their group of women or groups, and men had their sacred space and their group and their tradition, and that the men would come together and talk about who are we as men, right? And who are we for our people? Not necessarily, not in those terms, but and it's very powerful, and it feels different to be called out by a man than to be called out by a woman, and like a lot, it's, you know, it's sad that a lot of younger guys these days, they have a lot of them have no relation to real brotherhood, where there's guys that really give a fuck about them, who can call them to raise up, and they're men that they want to be like and be honored by, and it's such a powerful thing to have in your life, to move you in the direction of being the great man that you want to be, and yeah, it's a big missing. So
I like that to have your direction of how to do, say, a relationship, have that come from something outside the you and her. like an ethos or a way you want to show up, or answering the gods of, say, seduction or whatever that is. Answer that instead of answering her.
Yes.
Answer your brothers, answer the men that came before you, answer the gods of seduction, answer anything, but not answer her.
Yes.
And I think if we really go into some conflict or disagreement or whatever, you have to step outside. You have to step outside, because if it's right there, it's going to be a lot harder to solve it.
Yeah, this is an interesting dynamic, I think. Let's say Christianity, for example. There's your relationship with Christ, right? And wanting to be Christ-like, wanting to live that kind of a life, wanting to walk that kind of a path. And it almost comes primary. It's almost primary to the marriage, right? And this is also the way I think of honor. Is it's independent of the other. It's not
right.
It's about who am I being, and it's my relationship to myself. How am I seeing myself? Honor is how I feel in relation to how I am with myself. Am I standing for my values? Am I facing what there is to face? Am I answering the call? And if I'm not, I don't have honor. I have shame. And so it's it's really powerful, because I think a lot of us, we just, our orientation, how we feel about ourselves, is mostly just how other people feel about us. We're in school, we're in church, we're in here, we're there, we're in a relationship, and we're trying to feel better based on having others feel better about us. And there's a much higher level game that could be played, or orientation to self,
And that's where the power is. That's my big insight on learning. That's where the power is. You really want to, the biggest chance of saving, say, relationships and grow to something else, you do not need the other.
Yes.
You need to show up differently. You need to show up differently, answering different things, answering your brother's ancestors, God, seduction, whatever, and make that stand.
Yes.
You're like, it's upon you. It's onto you. You can make that change.
Yes.
That's the powerful part of that to me.
It takes two to tango. It takes one to restore honor, and to really restore your power in a relationship, and to really transform the relationship.
It takes two to tango. It takes one to honor. You got to find something that's similar to the. Then you have a powerful phrase. Facebook status update. It takes two to tango. It takes one to.
What I would say is transform a relationship. But maybe you're looking for the single word. Yes. But anyway, let's see. Sean is speaking here. I already read that comment. Adrian. I like to believe that a real ally is a person where you find always, I read that one, always constructive limits for your ego and extension for your best features. Yes.
Well, it's not just a concept, It's not like a friend, and the allyship is to me is really a powerful stance, but is a lot of work and practice.
It's a way of life.
Yes.
It's a path. All right.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. I'll see you tomorrow. We'll see you tomorrow.
Are you ready to be an ally in your life? Are you curious about that? Do you feel the power in it? If so, stay tuned. Reach out.
There's more tomorrow.